Hi guys, welcome to this video. So for today's I gonna show you my topic, which is teaching science in elementary grades, biology and chemistry. So in module 4, it is all about heredity, inheritance and variations. And lesson 3, it is all about reproduction among flowering plants in grade 5. So lesson 4, reproduction in non-flowering plants in grade 6. What is reproduction among flowering plants? So, plants are living organisms. That means they need to reproduce in order to pass on their genes to future generations. Plants can create offspring through either sexual or asexual reproduction. So, mao ni siya ang picture guys. Makita diri ang pistil, which is the pistil dayon nga makita nato pod ang stigma, style, and napoday ovary ning plants kaning flowers. So napoy petal na diri sa stamen makita ang anther, pollen in anther, then filament. Then sa left side is makita nato ang ovules, which is eggs. Dayon the sepal. So in other words, flowering plants reproduce sexually through a process called pollination. So the flowers contain male sex organs called stamens. So nanadya guys, makita na tong stamen. So and female sex organ called pistils. So kaning sa female, napo ni siya female sex organ guys, mo ni siya pistils. So pistils. Then so this plants can either self-pollinate or cross-pollinate. So it happens when a plant's own pollen fertilizes its own ovules. So ma-fertilize na ni siya guys kaning kuan. Kaning mahitabo ni siya, kuan ni mo fertilize siya og own pollen. So sa iyahang kagalingong kuan ovules, which is kanang makita nato sa picture guys. So let's proceed sexual reproduction. So what is sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction requires genetic material, DNA, from two parents. The parent plants have male and female sex cells called gametes. The genetic material from the male and female gametes combines to produce offspring. This process is called fertilization. So seeds produced through fertilization contain genetic material from both parents. As a result, the offspring are not genetically identical to either of the parent plants. This genetic diversity can help them survive if the environment changes. So as you see the pictures, it is the process of reproduction of plants. So mahal na siya guys. So by the male gametes from the pollen grain, it gives fertilization of the ovules in the flowers. Next is, let's proceed in sexual reproduction. So what is sexual reproduction? Mao na daday siya guys. Kaning sexual reproduction mo niya ang image sa ubos guys. It is a mode of reproduction involving the fusion of haploid female gametes egg cell, and haploid male gametes, sperm cells. So let's proceed in flowering plants. Flowering plants reproduce sexually through a process called pollination. The flowers contain male sex organs called stamens and female sex organs called pistils. So kaning sa female sex organs sa plants guys, mo na siya gitawag og pistils. So kaning sa male sex organs mo ni gitawag og stamens. So the anther is the part of the stamen that contains pollen. So motong dire guys, anthin. So dura siya anther. Ang stamen na belong siya sa anther guys. So this pollen needs to be moved to a part of the pistil called the stigma. So mo na siya guys, stamen din anther, di siya nga part sa makita niyo nga video, ana siya diha, then pollen in anther, then filament. So plants can either self-pollinate or cross-pollinate. Self-pollination happens when a plant's own pollen fertilizes its own ovules. So cross-pollination happens when the wind or animals move pollen from one plant to fertilize the ovules on a different plant. The advantage of cross-pollination is that it promotes genetic diversity. Some plants have features that prevent self-pollination, such as pollen and ovules that develop at different times. Next is, let's proceed to pollinators. So what is pollinators? So, pollinators are animals that carry pollen between plants. Many pollinators are insects like bees, butterflies, moths, and beetles. Some birds, including hummingbirds, also play a part. Likewise, certain mammals like bats and rodents move pollen between plants. The colors and smells of flowers often attract pollinators. So pollen will stick to a pollinator's body as it feeds on the flower's nectar. So on the other hand, pollinators is an animal that moves pollen from the male anther of a flower stigma of a flower. So kani mga pollinators mo ni ang mga bees kaning nas picture, which is I think this is bees, buyog. So mo ni maka sila mo kuan guys kanang sila may musuyop or sila may nakahatag og kuan kanang kanang makakuan sila og makaka setagan ni basta guys, pollinators is maunang kanang mga bees, mga sa pila mga pollinators, butterflies, mamunay mo kuan sa ilahang mo carry na sila og kuan kanang pollen between plants. So sila na ang mo carry na. So mo na siya guys. So next is let's proceed fertilizations. So what is a fertilizations? Fertilizations is the next step after pollination. So once it reaches the pistil, the pollen needs to fertilize an egg inside the stigma. The egg is called an ovule. Fertilization creates fruits that contain seeds. Some fruits are fleshy. I think that's fleshy. Like oranges and watermelons. Others are dry, like acorns or walnuts. These fruits are an attractive food for various animals. After digesting fruit, animals expel waste that contains a seed. So this way, seeds can take root and grow in place far from the plants that produce them. So sila day kaning mga bees makakuan po din sila og kuan another plants kanang makaon makakuan sila guys kanang mga pre aning giingon diri nga maka digest sila og fruit, then animals expel waste that contains a seed. So sila na murag musuyop guys ana something. So na diri sa picture na pollen falls onto the stigma. So pollen na pollen grain, germinations, pollen tube. So sperm cells, ovary, ovule, egg cells within embryo sac, then thalamus. So diagram of fertilizations and flowering plants. So muna siya diagram how to fertilize and the process of a plant kana pag fertilize muna siya sa picture. So next is asexual reproduction. So what is asexual reproduction? Only requires DNA from one parent. It creates offspring that are genetically identical to the parent. Genetically identical offspring are called clones. Clones lack genetic diversity. This makes them more susceptible to disease. It also makes them less adaptable to changes in the environment. So asexual reproduction. So there are different methods of asexual reproduction. They include vegetative propagation and fragmentation. So what is vegetative propagation? Vegetative propagation does not require seeds or spores. Instead, offspring grow from a part of the parent plant. And different plants, vegetative propagation happens in different ways. Here are few examples. So garlic, onions, and tulip plants all reproduce using the bulbs. These short underground stems are also called scaly bulbs. We have a basal plate that is usually surrounded by modified leaves. These leaves are from a papery covering called a tunic. New bulbs grow off of the parent bulb's basal plate. So potato plants reproduce using tubers. These underground growths produce new plants from stem or growing points called eyes. The strawberry plants reproduce using stolons. I don't know. I think that's stolons. They look like branches growing along the ground. Stolons anchor themselves to the ground and develop roots, and these roots grow into new plants. So makakuan dahil sa new plants. So example anang aloe vera makakuan na siya ga another kuan kanang aloe vera ug gyapon something na guys. So murag dili siya mo require og seeds yung ana. So or spores. So mo grow siya as a plant of a parent like saging. So mo grow siya din diha agud siya nga part sa iyahang parents, sa iyahang matubuan diha siya sa parent sa kuan sa nagibutangan. So once imong putlon tong sa saging, so naputoy mo create og another saging food. So another example ako dere guys. Next is fragmentation. So what is fragmentation? Is another form of asexual reproduction. It involves new plants growing from small parts of the parent plant that fall to the ground. So for example, animals or the wind can break stems or leaves of plants. This is one of the ways that plants like liverworts and mosses reproduce. So in this criteria, example ani is fragmentation results in new individual organisms. I don't know what is the Bisaya ani guys, but I think mo ni siya katong kasi tawag ato kanang mutapot siya sa tiil guys. And then once nga imo siyang maputol or maputol iyahang lawas, ang iyang kaputol is mo create na pud siya another nga ingon ana siya forma guys. Alimot kung sa ngalan ato guys. So pare aning tiki regenerations, this is a lizard. So once nga maputol niya ang iko guys, so ang kato iyang kaputol murag di na to siya mabilik, and then kanang kaputol gikan sa parts iyang lawas nga naputlan is mo create po na siya ikog sa iyang kagalingon. So man siya kuan kanang example aning sa fragmentation like sa plants. So sa plants guys is kanang kuan nalimot kung sa to siya kaning basta kay mura siyang paypay guys, and then once nga ma-attack siya din mo create siya og mo forma siya gingon ato din mo siya aloe vera. I know alimot ko guys, basta kay same ani nga example guys sa animals. So kanang bisag maputol mo create siya, mutubo siya guys sa kuan siya guys sa plants. Kato ako ang more example, nalimot na ko kung sa to hingalan to guys. Mo once nga maputol ta yung marag pay marag iyang palwa, so kato yung palwa mo create po to siya kuan guys, mo create siya og bulak mo kuan dili na siya kinahanglang kuan itanom kay mo turok man siya. So next is horticulturist. What is horticulturist? So horticulturists are people who study plants. They often use sexual reproduction through fragmentation to grow new plants. They do this by cutting a leaf of plant and placing it in water or soil. This process is called propagating from cuttings. So what is horticultures? So horticultures guys is mao ni siya katong tig-atiman, the expert ni siya nga sa mga expert sa mga plants. Sila tong tig-atiman mo na siya gitawag og horticultures. So next is reproduction in non-flowering plants, meaning dili siya mamulak. So what are non-flowering plants? Non-flowering plants are those plants which do not produce flowers. Examples are Bryophytes, Pteridophytes, and Gymnosperm. Gymnosperm produce seeds but are not enclosed inside the ovary. Produce seeds produced enclosed inside the ovary. The ovule and pollen grains develop inside the sporangius present on micro and megasporophylls, which arrange spirally to form male and female strawberry or cone. So katong dili mo kuan guys, katong dili mo produce og bulak. So example ani is kanang dili produce og bulak, moses. Sa pala another example plants nga dili siyang produce og bulak. Yes, aloe vera. I think aloe vera dili siya ma-produce og bulak. Or so on. So how non-flowering plants can reproduce? So non-flowering plants reproduce by releasing large numbers of tiny spores. These minute organisms consist of one or a few cells inside a tough coat. So example ani is non-flowering plants mostly fall into one of these groups. Firms liverworts moses hornworts firms club moses horsetails conifers cycads, and what is this gango. We can group those together based on how they grow. So ang kani non-flowering plants, so mo to akong giingon guys nga dili siya mamulag like yes, like moses katong mukan ra siya dili mamulak din ferns liverworts, so nara diri guys. So hornworts works ferns, this is the examples of non-flowering plants. So let's proceed. What is reproductions in non-flowering plants? So some plants don't produce flowers and seeds. Yes, dili sa tanang so dili tanang bulak is maka-produce og flowers. So pwede po yes, this no produce flowers. So here, some plants don't produce flowers and seeds. Yes, seeds also. Plants such as ferns and mosses are called non-flowering plants. Yes, kaya wala ko ni sila mo bulak guys. Ang non-flowering, the mosses are and ferns. So and produce spores instead of seeds. So dili siya mo produce the seeds but spores. There is also another group called the fungi. What is that guys? So that includes mushrooms. Yes, mushrooms. These are reproduced by spores. So produce spores. So we often think of these individuals as non-photosynthetic plants. So when in fact they belong to their very own group or kingdom. So ang kaning mga plants guys, so napod ni sila kaugalingong group, which is na sila mga kaugalingong family, like pre anang flowering plants and then apoy non-flowering plants. So as what I said, so nagud sila own nga mga family nga anak guys. So thank you for watching.